Rivian has made some bold claims about where they're going with autonomy this year. But you know me, I'm gonna put it to the test. I'm putting that under a microscope. I've devised a plan to give a numerical score to the system's performance. And if all goes according to their plans, they'll have a perfect score by the end of the year. This is the Mountain Loop. Honestly, up to this point, it's actually kind of impressive how quickly Rivian's autonomy system has advanced. Just this last year, they turned on their own autonomy stack, and it's gained a lot of momentum. However, they still have a long way to go. And if all goes according to their plans, by the end of this calendar year, they plan to have point-to-point self-driving. I'm talking you type in an address, and from point A to point B, it drives you. And they're doing that on hardware that is currently in customers' vehicles, the Gen 2 autonomy system. And mind you, this is the same autonomy system that the R2 is going to ship with right now. The Gen 3 system is a long way away, but on this Gen 2 system, they're planning to have point-to-point self-driving by the end of 2026. And honestly, that's pretty impressive. And based on the quick advancement that they've made before, I think they can hit it, but they have a long way to go before they get there. And I want to be testing all along the way. And it occurred to me I need to have some kind of standardized test to see exactly how the system performs from software release to software release, and even possibly compared to competitor systems along the way. So I devised the Mountain Loop test. The scoring for this test is a modified version of what we used in the disengagement derby video. Quick side note, if you haven't seen that, I'll put a link right here. It's actually pretty interesting. We did a road trip to Las Vegas with Rivian Universal Hands-Free, Tesla FSD, and Comma AI. Yeah, we all know that the Tesla system won, but it was really interesting to see how they all compared against each other. And you can bet that won't be the last time we do that road trip. So you can check that out. Hit subscribe if you're interested in seeing more of that, because there is more coming. All right, so let's talk about that scoring. Like I said, this is a slightly modified version of the scoring system we used for the disengagement derby. There are 5 categories of points that can be accumulated on this test. So we'll start with the smallest, the 1-point category. These are the nudges, the small things that the driver might need to do to intervene with the system. These are things like disengagements to take a turn at an intersection so you can follow directions, disengaging the system to stop for a stop sign or a traffic light, an audible nag to touch the steering wheel, or nudging the vehicle in its lane so that you can scoot toward or away from another vehicle. And there are 2 new ones here, lane changes and speed adjustments. This change was made because Rivian is shooting for an end-to-end driving system, and you shouldn't need to interact with it at all. So anytime you have to adjust the speed, as it is right now, when you get on the on-ramp, you have to sit there and flick the wheel up so you can get up to freeway speed. So that's not ideal. And when you get off the freeway, you have to sit there and flick the wheel down so you can get off of freeway speed. A quick clarification on the speed adjustment category here. This is meant for when the speed limit changes on the road. For example, getting on an on-ramp and you have to speed up to the freeway speed, or off-ramp and you have to slow down to surface road speed. This does not count the initial engagement when you first turn on the system and you're going from there. Additionally, lane changes. If you're on the freeway, the system can automatically change its lanes right now, but it waits for you as the driver to initiate that lane change. Eventually, all of these things need to happen automatically. So for now, these are 1-point nudges. Next is the 5-point category. This is if the system fails to engage on a road. For example, right now, UHF doesn't work on a road without lines. And so if the system says, sorry, you can't engage right now, that's a 5-point penalty. Next up is the 10-point intervention. This is when you as the driver have to take over because the system is doing something wrong and or dangerous. Up from there is a 20-point infraction. This is when the system is just driving along and then prompts you to take over because it can't handle that situation. And the last category, the most by far, is the 100-point. This is if the system fails in such a bad way that it cannot recover without pulling off the road and resetting the system. This is extremely uncommon and is more likely due to bugs than anything else. But the category needs to exist just in case, because it has happened before, actually. Since this test is performed in the real world, conditions change and scores might fluctuate from run to run. However, as the system gains abilities, it probably will start dropping pretty quickly, actually. That's what we hope anyway. They're shooting for that 0 score. And this is all particularly important right now because coming very soon, Rivian is going to start charging actual money for their autonomy subscription. And on that note, next week, I'm actually going to be releasing a video specifically about that. Rivian has agreed to give me a hands-on early look at what the system looks like without the subscription and with the subscription. I'll be going through exactly what features it has, what it doesn't have, and I'm going to be testing to see if it's using the same driving model between the free and the paid version. I honestly have no idea what to expect, but explore with me, hit subscribe if you want to watch that video. The loop takes about 30 minutes to drive, but don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch all of that. I made a super cut of all of the interesting bits and where it got points. But if you want to use the chapter markers to just skip straight to the part where I'm talking about the scores, you're welcome to do that. Editor Mike here. One important detail I forgot to mention. This is software 2026.03 that we're running on the test. Okay, now let's get into it. And we are off. I'm just going to go ahead and pull out onto this main roadway here. This is where the test is officially going to start, coming out onto this main road. This is beyond what UHF is able to handle right now, currently. But at some point in the future, it should be able to do this. So already we're starting off with does not function on this road. Yep. Will not engage. No surprise there. So we're starting off strong. Not that we expected anything different, to be honest. But we will be able to engage on this next road here, but we will have to disengage almost immediately to follow the route to turn right. So as it stands right now, UHF has come a long way, but we're going to rack up a lot of points, that's for sure. And we're able to engage here. And we're immediately going to disengage again because we have to turn right here. So engagement to follow route. And we're able to engage here. Luckily for us, we have people in front of us at this stoplight. Otherwise, we would have to disengage here. But we're able to stay engaged because of that. So win for this one. And we are off. We're getting onto a freeway entrance here. And we're actually lucky that I don't have to disengage to make a turn because this lane only goes onto the freeway. So as long as it makes this curve well, then we're good. I do have a suspicion that it would not take this curve as well if there weren't slower vehicles in front of us. So I'm going to increase the speed here to freeway speed. And it looks like we're actually going to be okay with the merge. As it stands right now, the automatic lane changes do not function when a lane is ending. So it's all manual lane changes here. So I'm going to do a manual lane change to execute that merge. Another manual lane change because the system will not do it. Okay. And we're set. We should have all automated lane changes after this. And of course, according to the scoring that we're using here, automatic lane changes and manual lane changes count for the same because it is an intervention by the driver to do that. But ideally, hopefully sooner than later, it will start doing automatic lane changes. That is one of the things that is supposed to be coming soonest with Autonomy Plus is end-to-end autonomy on freeways. So for this highway driving, we're just going to ride in the second from the left lane because this is like the more normal speed traveling lane. We are exiting pretty soon, so we're not getting all the way to the left on the freeway. But we don't want to be stuck behind the slower moving cargo carrying traffic like that trailer that we just passed in. Automatic lane change to get over here so we can take our exit. Okay, new lane opened up here. Waited until the new lane is completely open. Oh, looks like I'm going to have to take over to do this lane change manually because it refused to do that automatically. Again, no point difference between the automatic and manual lane change there, but interesting. Okay, re-engaged on the off-ramp and manually lowering the speed. Interesting. I do have the speed set much higher than it's going here. It is of its own accord slowing down, even though the set speed is higher. But I'm going to take over here. That it was prompting me to take over because of this curve over here, but that's not the one that we were taking. So that ended up being a driver prompted takeover, not a system prompted takeover. Can disengage, but immediate disengagement because we have a red light with no lead vehicle. We're racking up the points here. This concludes the highway portion. And we're on to the mountain portion now. Okay. And disengagement for the red light. Oh, gotta wait till we're across the intersection. Okay. Okay, and a disengagement to turn right here. Oh, and it looks like we're gonna hit that red light. We don't have any more turns to contend with for a while, so we should be able to just cruise up this road just fine here. Oh, and we're going to have to do a manual lane change because this lane is ending. Speed limit adjustments. And we're going to do another manual lane change. So this is the area where the first version of Universal Hands-Free was a little bit rough. It was a little too aggressive about slowing down for curves, and I had to intervene a couple of times because I felt like it was going dangerously slow to the point where I was going to get rear-ended or something like that. And it still is a little aggressive on slowing down, but much improved on this version. We're going to do a manual lane change to go around this truck. Okay, we just had a little phantom slowdown. I wouldn't call it a phantom brake, so it didn't jam on the brakes, but we did slow down for no apparent reason there. This one we're slowing down for a curve, so it makes a little bit more sense. But we've got a stop sign coming up, so I'm going to disengage to make a left turn and stop for the stop sign. And now we're going to head back down the mountain. I'm going to get over to the right lane here. And up to speed, and we're re-engaged. This curve in particular, oh, it asks for hands on the wheel, touch. I was just going to say, this curve in particular is one where on the previous version, it was slowing down to the point of being dangerous. Now it's not slowing down at all, but it did give me an audible warning to touch the steering wheel. So that does count for a point against it. Okay, and just like that, we're off of the mountain road and we're merging down to one. This merge is always very easy because there's no traffic to contend with, so even though the system doesn't know how to handle a merge, it does it just fine with no interference. So I got a freebie there. Okay, on this section of road with the first UHF, this is where I kind of got a little white knuckly and I felt like I want to hover over the steering wheel because it wanted to jerk and take every single one of these turn lanes. This version of UHF seems to be better. It still seems to want to take those turn lanes, but it's not as aggressive with it. You know, I say that, and of course on this run, it's doing just fine. We're not through the woods yet, but so far so good. And ooh, yep, nope. I tried to take that last one, so I took over there. Re-engaged. And we're going to disengage to get into this lane and take the commuter lane. The commuter lane, it generally handles pretty well. It's got some tight curves on it, but it seems to do just fine. This commuter lane was actually previously mapped under highway assist. Now we have over to disengage to take this turn here, follow the route. Okay, and another disengagement to turn right at this light. We couldn't engage on the way out, but we actually may be able to engage. No, it will not let me engage here. Okay, so there's another did not engage on this road. And there you have it, the first ever mountain loop. And there's a long way to go. For what it's worth, where the system operates, it does very well. And most of the points accumulations here were not because the system was misbehaving. There was actually only one intervention where I had to take over because the system did something bad. Almost all of the point accumulation here is a result of the system just not having certain abilities. Rivian usually likes to play it pretty safe to where they won't add a new feature or give a new capability to the system until they're sure that it can perform well with that capability. And that's reflected in the score here. Like I said, there's only one time that I had to take over because it was doing something wrong. So let me pull up the score and we'll give a full breakdown here. Okay, the first category is disengagements to take a turn, where I had to take over and take it around a corner at an intersection. This happened 7 times. Next is disengagement for traffic control, where I have to stop for a stoplight or a stop sign. This only happened twice. We did get lucky a couple of times with vehicles in front of me at stoplights, so I didn't have to disengage for that. We had one audible nag where it told me to touch the steering wheel. I didn't give it any input. I just touched the steering wheel. We had 0 nudges where I had to like scoot it over in the lane. I had to do 7 lane changes. There was a lot of point accumulation from lane changes. And remember, this counts both manual lane changes and where I, as the driver, queued an automatic lane change. They're both 1 point infractions. And I had to make 3 speed limit adjustments. In the next category up, the 5-point category, is fail to engage on that road. There were 2 times when it said that it could not engage on that specific road. And that was the same road coming into and out of the parking lot where we start and end the test. The next category up is the 10-point category, where I, as a driver, had to intervene. This only happened 1 time, which was kind of nice. There were 0 20-point failures where the system gave up and said, I can't do this. And of course, there were 0 reset failures, 100-point failures where I had to pull over and reset the system. So the total score is 40, which is better than what the system would have gotten on prior versions. But there's still a long way to go for sure. So make sure you remember that, and we'll compare it as the next system update comes out. They actually have a history of every single software update updating the driving model as well. Even if there aren't any new headline features for UHF, they do sneak in a new model. A great example of this last update that we're on currently, that's worth noting that this is 2026.03 that the vehicle is running right now. There were no mentions of new abilities or features for UHF, but they did update the driving model. So I would expect that that will probably remain true for most, if not all, of the software updates this year, that even if there aren't any headline features in the release notes, they will be updating the driving model. And I will be testing every single version just to see exactly where they're progressing. And in some cases, they may digress. So we'll see. But anyway, there's the mountain loop. Thanks for joining me. I will be doing this every time there's a new software release, and I'm also going to be doing more real-world testing with disengagement derbies and testing more of the edge cases. So if any of that interests you, hit subscribe. Until next time. Okay, this is a total side tangent, but I just need you to see how I filmed this thing, and it's true to my form, overcomplicated and ridiculous, but I think you'll appreciate it. Okay, so I'm just recording on my computer here. I hate SD cards and I hate batteries. So this camera has neither of those. I just got it hanging out here, recording onto my computer, just hanging out on this suction cup. Actually, these suction cups are fantastic. I've got one here and I've got one over there with the POV for my phone. Honestly, they're fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them. If you're interested, I'll have them linked down below. But yeah, there's my overcomplicated setup. Okay, I think I finally know what I'm gonna say. Why? What? Let them eat cake. Man, if I could just make it past the first sentence, that would be like super cool. Yay, I can count. Next up, Woo!